Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Clem, Jonathan, and Stitches. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this beautiful Champions League night following Liverpool's 3-1 victory over AC Milan. It's usually the status quo that we like to let AC Milan get ahead of us, and then we have a comeback victory against them. It's just the status quo at this stage. It's what we're used to. I think Liverpool are one of two teams now that are completely undefeated in the San Siro. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm nearly sure Liverpool have never lost a game in the San Siro, are only one of two teams to do it. But without further ado, we'll get into the game because what a massive game this was considering what happened over the weekend. We obviously lost 1-0 to Nottingham Forest in a little bit of a lackluster fashion. But we all sort of knew today maybe some changes were needed. Maybe some tactical changes were needed. I wasn't worried personally because AC Milan essentially they're very open. They only won their first game of the season last weekend against the 20th place Venezia, and they scored 4 in that game. Previously to that, they had drawn to Parma, Torino, and then they'd also lost to another team. I can't remember who it was, but all three of the teams that they didn't win against in their first 3 games, or 2 of the teams that they didn't win against their first 3 games, are below them in the league. So I was never necessarily worried about it. I think it was a smart idea from Slot to basically trot out the exact same team again. It's like, you guys lost. You need to get your mojo back. You need to show that you can actually come out and pull your finger out and actually play a game. But enough about me talking. I'm going to throw it over to everybody else. Clem, we'll throw it over to yourself first of your thoughts on the game and who would you have had as your man of the match, essentially? What were your positives? Was there some negatives or anything like that at all?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of, you mentioned the weekend, what a stark difference in terms of just a game of football. That was exciting to see. Open play, end-to-end stuff. Maybe not great for the guys that love defending, but there was some great individual defensive performances. But, classic Liverpool on the counter. And, I love a set-piece goal as well. So we'll talk about the goals, of course. But, I just really liked our ability to stay calm after conceding the first. It's kind of like, you mentioned the weekend and Slot and the challenge that's been laid down, and obviously we'll talk about the upcoming games in the weekend, but with the adversity faced and be able to just control the game after that. Mo hit the bar twice. So I think, the score kind of flattered Milan a little bit as well. I mean, they could have scored a couple of late ones, but the game was dead by then. So I really like the control. You mentioned a few performances. Some guys did, definitely raise their game over the weekend. Dominic Gravenberg, another great performance. Cody Gakpo on the left, really, really impressed with his performance on the left-hand side. That's just the luxury we have, when Lucho gets a rest and he gets an opportunity. So, we looked ever dangerous and a great start to the campaign. And I think this will give everybody a ton of confidence.
Yeah, it really will. It's one of them confidence builders, especially after getting a knock at the weekend like that. And we had somebody in here last night that was slandering the ever-living life out of Cody Gakpo. And I want to find his name because I want to call him out because Cody Gakpo had a phenomenal game today.
He was still very disappointing against Forest when he came in. So, but
Cody Gakpo?
Yeah, but he delivered today.
You thought he was disappointing today?
No, against Forest, but today he impressed me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So Cody, just the slandering of Cody Gakpo that came in last night was just I couldn't get over it. And it's Emin Venom Bears, whoever that is, and I have the comments here looking back on it. Whenever Gakpo comes on, we start to fall back. Well, didn't look like it today. Why, when the Ipswich game, excuse me, Gakpo 2 came on and nothing happened. Well, he started today's game and he got a beautiful assist, and he absolutely ran their fullbacks ragged. So I hope you just take that L and you absolutely eat it. But Jonathan, you, as Clem mentioned and myself mentioned, there was a lot of gut check that was needed from this game. Essentially, we needed to see whether or not this team could bounce back. As it was the first loss at home, it was against Nottingham Forest. It wasn't ideal. We looked a little bit lackluster, possibly a little bit gassed following the international break. This game then comes around 3 days later, and we look as if we needed that kick in the ass at the weekend against Nottingham Forest. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we weren't good the first 5 minutes. Obviously, we considered a very cheap goal, but they weren't defensively solid either. Yeah, we played some very good football. We looked very much more sharp than we did at weekend. But next weekend we have Bournemouth, and they're probably gonna go for a low block, and like Milan did today. So we have to adapt for the smaller teams. But nothing to take away from the performance today. Everyone delivered on points. The only thing that annoys me is Jota, because the last games he's been really poor. I think he can be benched for Nunez, just to give Nunez a few starts. And I hope he rests McAllister or Gravenberg against Bournemouth, because they don't have to be overused and get a long-term injury.
Yeah, it's you don't want, especially coming into this stretch of the games. It's one of them that you just don't want. Any injury now gets compounded because we're obviously playing our midweek games, and we have Bournemouth at the weekend, and then we have West Ham in a EFL Cup game. You'd imagine that we could probably go a little bit weaker in that. It's just one of them that we really need to start resting players. And Stitches, you've obviously seen that we've played heavily strong teams so far on our own side since the start of the season. Where do you see some rotation come in now at the weekend, or do you see any rotation come in at the weekend?
Yeah, most definitely. I think you kind of saw that he was making substitutions into the 17th minute of the game, getting some players off, maybe to rest their legs, start their recovery processes going into the weekend. I think you will see some rotation, but I don't think you're going to see anything too revolutionary in terms of the changes. I think what you might see is players starting the game and then coming off earlier in the game. And maybe one or two changes in the starting lineup. But I think just reading between the lines in terms of what Slot said in his presser, what he's used to is using, more or less the same squad. I think that the Premier League and the attrition requires that you make those changes. And I think they'll have the data, he'll have the sports scientists and talking to him about people in the red zone and whatnot. So I think he will manage that. I think, just to talk about the game for a second, I think what concerned me about the game against Nottingham Forest was that we got drawn into playing their game. It became very much like a basketball match, end to end. And the buzzword, or the word that I keep hearing from Slot, is control. And we had no control against Nottingham Forest, and we had no control for the first 5 minutes of the match today. But then we kind of got a stranglehold back into the game. And I actually think that when we have that control, it helps us manage games better, where it's not 100 miles per hour all the time. So actually, you might see that enables the team to manage the fatigue level, because we're not playing heavy metal football all the time. We play it in moments, and then there are moments where we could have gone on a transition, and you just see Szoboszlai cut back and just play a ball back just to keep possession. You see Trent looking to play that 30-yard Hollywood pass that he normally does, and he just checks back and plays a shorter pass, and we just maintain possession. And I think you're going to see more of that as the season goes on. So what you'll have is that we're not making these long busting runs to get forward and then long busting runs to return. And, it's interesting we mentioned Trent tonight, and I've always had an argument that if you put any fullback in the Liverpool system on the clock, they're going to be tested defensively, because as soon as the ball transitions, they're supposed to be halfway up the pitch, right? On the Slot system, You see, Trent isn't making as many recovery runs because he's already there a lot of the time, and the play is in front of him rather than him being so far ahead of the play. And I think, yeah, to come back to your original question, I kind of went around the houses there. Yes, you might not see as many changes as you want to see, but there will be substitutions. That's what I see happening. And you'll see us managing the game better. We'll probably have flurries where we'll really go for it and take a stranglehold of the game. And then once we're ahead, you probably see us controlling the match by just maintaining possession.
Yeah, that's essentially the way I see it as well. Get a goal or two, not so much sit back, but start like the quote that always comes to mind when I refer to Arne Slot's Liverpool and how he likes to play is death by 1,000 cuts. In that it's just pass, and then all of a sudden now they're running after the ball for 20 minutes and they're gassed, and now you have an open and there's your third goal. And that's kind of the way it goes. And I think that's absolutely a fantastic way to go about it, because it really, really, really will allow us to alleviate a lot of minutes and a lot of injury concerns. And it's one of them that's just it's something that we need to monitor going forward, because as you can see, other teams are having players drop like flies. Like Man City's average age of their squad is 28.6. The average age of our squad is 23.4, something like that. And then you have Arsenal, who have now lost Declan Rice last weekend. We're very lucky to beat Spurs, in my own opinion. They also have Calafiori out. They also have Marino out. And now they have Odegaard out. And nobody knows when he's coming back. Saka is apparently injured as well. I don't know if he's going to be playing tomorrow. I think they're playing tomorrow night in the Champions League, or else they're playing on Thursday. We'll see if he plays midweek or not. That'll be a big indicator how he'll be at the weekend. But Arsenal have a bit of a tough slog now as well, and their depth is worse than ours. So this is a proper opportunity to capitalize on any shortcomings from others too. But big congratulations as well to Man United today on their 7-0 victory in the Champions League. I mean, not in the Champions League, but against Barnsley. Congratulations to them. When you have Anthony scoring, you know your opponents are absolute shite. So congratulations to them. We're playing AC Milan and winning 3-1. They're playing Barnsley and could have started their youth team and beaten them. No disrespect to Barnsley, it's just they're 2-3 leagues below, so it just is what it is, unfortunately. But we're going to have a quick look at a couple of statistics here, and in order for me to do that, I just need to share screen a little bit. We're going to jump over here into Milan and Liverpool. I'm going to come back in here, and we're going to get rid of this banner. We're going to have a look here at this. This is obviously FootMob. Anybody that's familiar with this will have seen it before. And as we can see, that's a very pleasing looking graph for ourselves. And obviously, Diogo Jota seems to be the one worry there, as many seem to have pointed out. But with that, Cody Gakpo played a blinder on the left wing. Szoboszlai, I think, other than his goal, I think that goal saved him from a bit of a bad game myself. Yeah. He just ran around and did an awful lot. Salah, maybe it was not watching him, but I didn't see him at all during the game. He had his miss against the crossbar. He had a shot straight on target, and that was about it. I don't know how he got man of the match on
he made the corner that Virg scored on, to be honest. So.
Oh yeah. Well, look, again, it's kind of that situation where you watch the game and you watch the game, and then you watch obviously Salah. You watch the game and you don't see Salah, but you watch Salah and you see the whole game. That kind of a thing. It could be that. Might have just been one of his games. I'm not going to knock it. We win. If this is the result every time and he doesn't contribute at all and we win 3-1 every game for the rest of the season, I'm not going to complain at all. But just to take a look at a couple of players that I wanted to highlight here, obviously our back four, immense. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, Clem, was, and it was discussed, a lot of people were worried about Rafael Leao and how he's a very fast, very dribbly winger, very speedy. And it seems that Trent kind of had him in his pocket. Did you view that a similar way to me, or what way did you view that? Was it the fact that Konate helped him, or did Trent do a lot of the heavy lifting himself?
Yeah, I think Trent definitely had a great performance defensively. You mentioned doing it all, the assist, getting up and down, but just being aware of that threat And that's all it takes sometimes, just to respect what the opponent is good at and take it away. Cut off those runs, get in front of him, and just make it difficult until the help comes. Like you said, it's a team effort defending many times, but it makes it easier when you don't get beaten by your man, and that's what fans appreciate. It's a tall task just to be offensive minded as a fullback, create chances, but also you're the first one that people blame if you do get beaten as well. So it's great that we do highlight the performances and that he was able to to keep their main threat quiet.
Yeah, realistically, he probably would have been man of the match for me, but I genuinely feel like, Jonathan, that Ryan Gravenberch has been head and shoulders above of anything we've expected from him, and has probably been our best player so far this season, and really showed it again tonight with his 90% passing, 4 passes into the final third. Those defensive actions and recoveries alone are enough to make anybody that loves a defensive midfielder's mouth water. Won a lot of his duels as well. Well, I say a lot of them. He lost fucking 7 of them. I say a lot. It's like, I guess he won important ones, but those recoveries and those defensive actions seems to be where he really came from. What was your expectation of him this season, and how were you expecting him to play in this CDM role, and has he exceeded your expectations? Like, we were worried, obviously. United was the first test. He passed that with flying colours. He actually played really well against Forest, one of the bright spots, along with Alexi McAllister. And again tonight, man of the match honours, I'm nearly sure, again, where he just absolutely ran everything in midfield.
I said during the whole preseason when we sat there, I think Ryan is gonna bloom under Arne. But I also said last season he was not a club player. He was, when he came in, it was like playing with 10 men. But this season he's been through the roof, and it's the only positive thing that Subimendi said, no, that Ryan is taking control of that midfield and running things match day for match day. It's been absolutely brilliant. And it helps with McAllister besides him as well.
Yeah, somebody that's also very similar to him, and how it's something very similar to him in how he plays, and I've always maintained this fact of it as well, that if McAllister's 5'10", if McAllister was 6'4", we'd have our own Rodri. That's essentially it. He is as good as Rodri in that position, but he's just 5'10", and he's not 6'4" like Rodri. That's essentially it. So that's my view, and that's the only difference between the two of them. The 6 inches in height in the difference. I absolutely adore McAllister as a player, but it's Stitches. Looking at that, is there anybody out of that lineup that you were surprised with the rating, or you expected that rating, or were you fairly happy with everybody overall as the team? Because looking at it from that alone, obviously we watched the game and now we're kind of looking at the numbers and how they're rated, and you use both to form your opinion on it. But yeah, I think genuinely that's probably, I think, to be honest with you, I think Alisson was done very harshly. I don't think he had a lot to do in the game, but obviously I think he could have done better with Pulisic's shot myself. But realistically, that starting 11, it's fairly on point. I don't see any discrepancies there. Who would you have rated as your man of the match in that? It would have been Ryan, Trent, Salah, whoever.
Yeah, so let me jump on the bandwagon for Gravenberch praise just for a moment. I think the thing that stands out for me about Gravenberch's performance and surprises me the most is his anticipation. Those interceptions that he makes in the passing channels to just cut out the attack by picking up the pass before it reaches its destination and then set us off on the counter. That is prime 6, qualities that you're looking for, and he's been doing that excellently this season. The other thing that goes on disgust about what Gravenberch does, and I think his teammates really appreciate, is tracking back beyond the centre backs, beyond the full backs to make those blocks, to stop those crosses coming in. Because Rafael Leao made a run where he got down to the byline, he was about to pull the ball back, and there's Gravenberch making a block to block him off the corner, and his teammates are like, patting him on the back because that is invaluable. So for me, he was one of the ones that I would highlight for man of the match. But the other person that I want to give credit to is Gapco. There seems to be a reluctance to take this guy to heart from our fan base. People don't really fancy him. But I was really impressed with what he'd done during the internationals. And he seems to have brought that form back with him. Controversial take, but I would rather see Gakpo start in a wide position than Diaz. Diaz is my kind of player. I love the flair, but I just think with Gakpo, you get more of an outcome. There's a more purposeful outcome at the end of whatever he's doing, and he was a threat all day down that side. His composure, retaining possession under pressure, finding his teammates with good passes. I'm surprised that he wasn't man of the match. I do think the ratings are harsh on Alisson. Yes, I think he could have done better on a shot, but then he pulled out an incredible save at the end of the game to push something onto the post. And we kind of take it for granted that he does these amazing things all of the time. So when he's beaten by a shot like Pulisic's shot, we kind of look at it super harshly, because we're used to him just plucking those kind of shots, picking them up and just setting us off on the counter. The concern for me is Jota. It's giving me anxiety because last season he was Jota the shotter. Half chances were just being buried. And this season it's a bit, does he swap boots with Nunes? Or what's happened? Jota the Slaughter is not happening anymore. And that's a bit of a worry because there was a couple of chances he had today where old school Jota would have just been running off celebrating. And this season it doesn't look like he's putting those chances away. And sometimes that can be the difference between 3 points and not getting 3 points. So we need him back to top form as soon as possible. Shimikas, I think he's got a higher rating than probably I would have given him, maybe just slightly. But I don't want to hold him to too much account because he hasn't played that much. He's coming off the bench. This is one of his first appearances this season. So I think he's a streaky player in the regards that he needs like 3-4 games before you really see the best in Shimikas. And unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get that. I think it's a case that he's going to be a bit part player. He's going to come in and have cameos. So he's got to figure out a way to perform when he has those cameos. I think he was at fault slightly for the goal.
Yeah.
I think he had no right to go for that interception. He wasn't going to make it. And then as a result, it meant that Verge also had to go to try and win the second ball, which he didn't. And then we were on the back foot. So yeah, but you know what? He recovered from that well. The whole team recovered from that well, and they showed real patience and doggedness to get back into the game and really take a stranglehold. But yeah, just looking at the ratings, I think Gravenberch and Gakpo are the two stand out for me. I thought Konate was good too. Van Dijk was just Van Dijk. Him and Morata were having a running battle all game, which I think he won hands down. But yeah, other than that, I think the scoring is pretty spot on. Really.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. Obviously, as I said, Jota seems to be one of them. He hasn't scored since the first game of the season, which was Ipswich. Didn't score against Brentford, didn't score against United, didn't score obviously against Nottingham Forest, and hasn't scored tonight or contributed at all. He got an assist against Brentford, but since then it's been 3 games of nothing. So you would worry about that. Paul, just to answer your question, it is, I believe, 4 yellows and you get a game ban. That's the way that it is currently at the moment. It's either 3 or 4. I could be wrong, but I think it's 3 or 4. Clem, of those ratings, we'll kind of wrap up now and we'll start getting everybody's man of the match. So I'll come to you, I'll come to Jonathan then, and I'll come to Stitches then to finish it off. Of the ratings that are there, give me your man of the match and who you think underperformed, of your own opinion. Even if it's based on those ratings, just give me your own opinion on your eye test on it.
Yeah, so I think Salah, as we mentioned, should be a little lower. Didn't have a great game. A couple nice half chances that he took. I like his quick decision making. You know, if you are within range, you know, strike it. But like you said, he just didn't really get on the ball a lot and really threaten like Mo does on the wings. You know, and we'll probably talk about it long term throughout the season. But he has lost a bit of pace. You know, maybe he does play a little bit more centrally as he gets older, and we wait for the contract extension, hopefully. But yeah, Salah should be a little lower. Man of the match, I think, is really close between Gravenberch and Gakpo. I'll be really happy giving it to either, but I got to give it to Gravenberch again, because just for a guy that's so early in his career as, you know, as a 6, and what he's been able to do for us and for Slot, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start, you know, and that nothing taken away from Gakpo, because he was absolutely phenomenal today. And, you know, and we've mentioned in the chat too, we hope to see Gakpo get a run of games in his preferred position, because this is the type of performances that he can do. And he could be world class. He's very young still as well. So fans shouldn't give up on Gakpo. He just needs consistency, and game time does the world of good.
It does, massively does. And we've seen that with all of the players. Even last season, Kelleher looked a bit rocky for his first couple of games, and then all of a sudden he's winning us a Carabao Cup final after a long stretch of games. But with Jonathan, from the game, who would have been your man of the match and who would have been sort of your dud of the match, if you so to speak? Is it something similar to claim, or would you have had different options?
I think Gravenberch deserves a man of the match shout. But I'm going to give it to Cody, just because he ran that left side like a maniac, tore the defense apart. And when he got substituted off with Diaz, Calabria, or what his name is, just, no, I'm out. Gave away his armband and went off. I think it's another poor match from Diogo, to be honest. I think he should be benched for a few games now and rather come in at 70, 60 minutes when Nunes have run himself empty. And I think even though Tsimikas was at fault for that Pulisic goal by selling himself, I think he made up with the assist and how solid it was the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think there seems to be a running theme here, Stitches, in that it was Gravenberch or Gakpo. But would you echo that opinion as well? And who sort of would have been your dud of it? Because I think everybody seems to have the same opinion across this panel, that it was probably not Jota's best game. And it was definitely it's just run of the mill now at this point for Ryan Gravenberch to be pumping these kind of games out, isn't it?
Absolutely. Gravenberch just keeps going from strength to strength. There's a lot of questions being asked of him, and I think he's answering all of them match by match. It's always, this will be the real test, and this will be the real test. He's just gone to the San Siro and just absolutely bossed the midfield. So you have to start tipping your hat to this kid. I do echo that it should be between him and Gakpo. I think he slightly edges it, and the reason he edges it for me is the defensive part of his game. That as I mentioned already, the breaking of the passing lanes and the passing channels, and the tracking back beyond your centre backs and your full backs to make those blocks and those tackles, and then just knitting it all together in terms of starting off attacks. It's just phenomenal. He's found a real level of consistency in the last 4 games. Can't be sniffed at. So I give it to Gravenberch today. Gakpo runs him a close second, though. I thought Gakpo was outstanding for us. And I think he may have just played his way into getting more minutes off the back of that performance. Who's the dud of the game? So I say he's the dud of the game only because what I expect from him is goals, and he hasn't delivered that, and that's Jota. I think the reason he will keep his shirt is that his link-up play with the other forwards and the midfield is still ahead of Darwin's. And you could see that when Darwin came on, yes, he was a threat. Yes, he was making runs in the channel. But when it gets to Darwin, the chances that it's going to be a passing combination with any of the other forwards at this moment in time is pretty low. It probably ends up in an improbable shot from Darwin when it should be a pass, because he's so desperate to score at the moment and get his goal scoring going again. So I think that you may still see Jota just keep the shirt. Although I agree with Jonathan that it's time for Darwin to get a run in the starting lineup and maybe take away some of that angst that you can see in his play. Because right now he's not comfortable because he doesn't think he's going to get picked for the next game. So he's kind of like, I need to prove myself. So he's trying a bit too hard. So that's not helping. But there is more. We are knitted kind of symbiotic play amongst the forwards when Jota's there, but he's not finishing it off at the moment, and that's a concern.
Yeah,
that's one of his key attributes.
Yeah, Jota could have had 2 goals today, which is the mad thing about it. Like, if a ball bounces a different way, he has 2 goals, and we're here praising him for another stellar performance when we need it. Darwin, towards the end of the game, almost had a great goal, nipped it off the feet, nipped it out of the hands of the keeper, and nearly got it under his arm.
Yeah,
Story of Darwin's life that it's nearly there, unfortunately, but it will click this season. If anybody has any doubts about that, take a look at the last big, strong, physical, fast forward that Arne Slot took a hold of, which was Jimenez, who had 8 goals in a whole season before joining Feyenoord, and then all of a sudden banged 40. So patience.
Darwin also had to play to get that link-up play going. If he played, he won't get that link-up play.
Yeah.
And I hope Federico starts. I hope he gets more minutes against Bournemouth.
I'd love to see Federico play a bigger role on Saturday because
I think he starts against West Ham and the FL Cup.
I think so too. The second he came on, he just looked bounding of energy and just straight away charged the keeper down, was running, was everything. It was absolutely brilliant to see. But guys, we are going to finish it up there for our post-match reaction. Liverpool have defeated AC Milan 3-1 in their return to the Champions League. Still remain undefeated in the San Siro, one of only 2 teams to be undefeated in the San Siro. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. With just over 3,000 people watching across YouTube and Twitter, or X as it's called now. So make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. If you're currently watching over on X at the moment, make sure to jump over to our YouTube channel. We have a very special interview with ex-Liverpool head goalkeeping coach who left us just this May, Paul Achtenberg, which is due to come out this weekend. Hopefully it's due out this weekend, and he has a lot of big tidbits. I'll give you a sneak peek into one of the things that he did mention, is that apparently while he was at the club, Liverpool were a whisker away from signing Manuel Neuer when he was at Schalke. I'll let you have that. And he says an awful lot more other than that.
No, that's mad, actually. What?
Liverpool were a whisker away from signing Manuel Neuer when he was at Schalke. And then obviously we went on and signed Alisson Becker. And he also talks, we talk in length at the Champions League final with Karius. We talk about his career as goalkeeper, a couple of mental sides of things as a goalkeeper. Me as a goalkeeper, found it very interesting. Talk about obviously how he feels, how his relationship with Jurgen Klopp was. Did he want to stay on? What's his life like over in Saudi Arabia at the moment? We had a big, long 45-minute chat with John, and it was absolutely fantastic to have him on. So make sure you join us on YouTube, and it's also going to be out on Spotify too. And make sure you have your notifications on so that you don't miss out on that. But yeah, Liverpool could have had Manuel Neuer.
Interesting.
It goes to show that not a lot of people have a clue about what goes on in the background of this club, and that's what I've been saying all summer. But
you know nothing.
No, we know absolutely nothing. Not even journalists know anything.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this wonderful Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning, as it is where Clem is currently at the moment. Thanks so much, guys, and we will see you all again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Take